we need also to find whether we can legislate on how debt across government agencies can be controlled, like in any business. Mr. Speaker, we are talking about debt owed from one agency to another. Through this ministry, if I'm confirmed, Mr. Speaker, we should be able to digitize entire government business so that information is available. Even the issue that is very dear to the public in general in terms of pending bills is a very big issue in the country on pending bills. And you realize, Mr. Speaker, that Kenyans don't look at pending bills as a very serious concern, because in my mind, pending bills, Mr. Speaker, is money borrowed from public. When a governor takes roads and gives contract of roads to Kenyans, for example, and he has not budgeted how those roads will be paid, a commitment is done, and a Kenyan entrepreneur will put in their money and do the roads and never get paid. So there's a lot of borrowing. You will find it's to the tune, I think, of 150 billion owed to Kenyans by government agencies. So this is something that we need to deal with as a country. But if we have a system, like what I would want to propose, if we have a system that captures procurement and payments, at the same time, the controller of budget will be able to see in real time and to stop some of these things. But because we wait for a year or 18 months until the audit reports come to the House for people to be invited here for questions, we should be able to digitize government business so that information is available to everyone and sundry for action to be taken to stop some of these things. So I imagine at some point in 2 years, Mr. Speaker, if I'm confirmed, the Speaker of the National Assembly should be able to see exactly what the MPs are doing wherever it is they are on legislative business. The President of the Republic from one dashboard should be able to see what is happening in development programs in Kenya. As we did in Kiambu, I could tell that from my office, what is happening in every ministry, 10 ministries in Kiambu, and would make decisions on time. There would be a management information system that gives an amber light when you open your document, and it tells you here something is about to go wrong. Red means it's chaotic, everything is bad. And information available in real time should be able to take us to the next frontier.
Yes, Owen. Ferdinand, oh yeah.
Did I answer?
No, you didn't touch on Ferdinand's question.
Ferdinand is East African. First and foremost, it is said Kenya is the Silicon Savannah of Africa. It is top #1 in Africa in terms of ICT and digital economy. But that does not put us in the first world. So it's a lot that needs to be done in terms of fast connectivity, so that we have high-speed internet in the whole country, ICT skills in terms of equipping the young with skills to be able to use these platforms. But again, our landlocked country neighbors should be able to use our infrastructure to get internet to Uganda, to Rwanda, and those other places. If only the bureaucracy between governments is sorted, so that we can take advantage of the position that we occupy in terms of ICT and digital economy in Africa. So we stand quite up there, but that we could take advantage.
Owen Bayer. Huduma number, yes. What happened to Huduma number?
Yes. One thing, Mr. Speaker, there's a lot of skepticism in the public about their information. Always people thinking government wants their information to give to KRA, government wants their information to do this. And we have to continue engaging ourselves as a public on why isn't it necessary to have information of Kenyan people in one database. For as long as that information is safe in the hands of government, it is important that government if you walk into Dubai now and you give in your passport, if you've ever been there before, anything, they have got your stuff there. If you are exiting Dubai, they tell you to look at the screen and you're taking your identity. The time you're kicked out of Dubai, you will never go back to Dubai again because your information is right there. So I think myself it's a myth that we need to deal with in terms of educating ourselves and having this open dialogue that government is not always bad. Because, you know, that is a sort of general feeling I have now. But it's working, it's something we can work on. So I believe it's important for any state to be able to know its citizenry, right from birth all the way to the death certificate. So I have nothing against Huduma number myself. But we need to go in there and find out, are there other things that are being done that look like Huduma number? Because every other time this is changing, that is changing. I believe we can have one document that suffices for all services and avoid spending public money on some of these things.
Owen Bayer,
Thank you. This is the fourth time you're
take the
calling my
next
question.
round.
The fourth time you're calling my question now.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I would like to ask the nominee this question that touches on collective responsibility as a binding note for Cabinet. You're aware recent events have shown that a CS could actually call a press conference to complain about and seek questions for government he serves in based on a personal issue or personal matter. And if you are given an opportunity, Honorable Kabogo, how would you handle this issue of collective responsibility? And that would you have the discipline to really stay in government and say this collective responsibility, or will you just, as a politician, you know you're a politician, go the political way and seek public sympathy? Or would you handle it differently? Secondly, Honorable Speaker, our question on expired data. You know, when you buy data, you don't use it, it expires. And I see on my phone a lot of data that I can't use. You know, a lot of it I can't use because it's expired, but it is there. But when it comes to consumer protection, why would I be forced to use data when I don't want to use it? It's my property, I bought it. Why would a telco want really to control how I use it? And how are you going to bring in policy and regulations on the same to ensure that Kenyans are not robbed by telcos in terms of expired data? I think there are millions of expired data out there. And Kenya are suffering. They have it, they can't use it because somebody decided they can't use it. You know, and lastly, Konza Metropolis was a great idea. We see it when we pass going to Mombasa and we see the development that is there. But the idea behind the Konza Metropolis is that we're going to have cutting-edge technology coming out of it. Cutting-edge technology, that we are Silicon Savannah. And that was the base for the Silicon Savannah, that we would see a lot of things, apps and all that coming out. But what we see a lot is buildings. We see they come out to install internet, simple things that would have been done from Nairobi. But we have a whole lot of a metropolis, and we would like to see it work. If appointed as a Cabinet Secretary for ICT, what would you do different to ensure that the Silicon Savannah that President Kibaki envisaged then and the Konza Metropolis would come to fruition as soonest for Kenyans, for the many young people who are looking for jobs and getting disturbed on the internet and, you know, on phone? They would be there producing high-end technology, but now they're not there because we haven't actualized what President Kibaki wanted us to have. I thank you.
Robert Bui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, you know, recently we had an international company that was also taking advantage, like these other big techs, and mining, data mining. You know, we found queues at KICC of young people lining up to have their irises, I think, copied. And it took the intervention of the National Assembly, actually, to stop that. So what will you do to ensure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again? Now, there's also the issue of pending bills that are owed to media houses by the government, and of course that has led to some of these media houses closing, and you know, journalists being owed a lot of money. What will you do to ensure that they are back in business? And finally, what do you want to tell those young Kenyans on social media, because this ministry is responsible for social media, and who are actually out there saying that they believe this position should have been given to a very young techno-savvy youth in furtherance of the Article 10 of the Constitution, which is principles of good governance. Thank you, Speaker.
Let's take one more. In fact, two more. Mule.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Kabogo, if you are approved by this House, and I heard you speak about Starlink, owned by the billionaire Enoch Marx from the US. What will you do to make sure that you protect the investment done by Kenyan companies like Safaricom, Telecom, and any other investment which has been done in the country to make sure that Starlink does not come here and kill Safaricom overnight? You know the number of people working for Safaricom. The revenue collected by government from Safaricom is the highest. If we allow this under your watch, I think the Gen Zs will not let you smile. So we want to hear your views on that, because it's a connectivity issue and investment by Kenyan taxpayers' money in this country, and you must protect it. We need to hear that. Secondly, Vision 2030, which has emphasized a lot on development on knowledge-based economy, highlighting the importance of ICT in this country through education to enhance productivity and efficiency, is key. And you are getting into this ministry whereby we have only 5 years to actualize the Vision 2030. That's 5 years to go. And we still have the Konza City, which is supposed to, and it was one of the flagship of this, to make sure that digitization and ICT integration in the schools is well implemented. What will you do in the ministry to fast track this and probably leave a clear legacy to make sure that the vision for Honorable the late Mwai Kibaki of Vision 2030 is achieved?
Thank you. Raso, I'll jump you to Shuria. He says he wants to ask a question and shortly leave for a meeting. Shuria? You are going together?
They are fasting.
No, it had nothing to do with religion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mheshimiwa Kabogo, there was a recent public notice issued by the Communication Authority on tax compliance for mobile devices in Kenya, which has raised concerns among consumers and stakeholders regarding its implementation. To your knowledge, what is the intention of this notice and its relation to the government agenda on telecommunication security?
Thank you. So, Raso, if you are going together, then I'll give you the opportunity.
Mr. Speaker, he seems not to have gotten the question. He wants me to repeat it, is it? Okay.
Through the chair.
Through the chair, okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There was a recent public notice issued by the Communication Authority on tax compliance for mobile devices in Kenya, which had raised concerns among consumers and stakeholders. To your knowledge, what is the intention of this notice and its relation to government agenda and telecommunication security? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Okay, Raso. Honorable Raso.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I walked in late. My name is Dido Raso, MP for Saku. Honorable Kabogo, if the House approves your nomination, your ministry will be mouthful: information, communication, and the digital economy. The world has moved there. Actually, you will be sitting at the center of the world. The problem in Kenya today is about cyber security, about cyber bullying, and cyber attacks, and cyber crime. Currently, we have 20,000 services on e-citizen. If those, if those sites actually are attacked, it means Kenya will be closed for a minute, for a day, even for a month. If you'll be given this position, there's the balance between securing Kenya, but also opening the digital economy for business. How have you placed yourself that Kenya runs, but at the same time, Kenya is secure? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
You can respond to those four.
Thank you, Mr.
Those
Speaker.
five, actually. Yes.
The first one was from, I think, Honorable Bayer,
Owen Bayer.
about collective responsibility. That is the issue, the whole world, where collective responsibility is supposed to be. Excuse me, Mr. Speaker. And you talked about a recent situation where a minister of government came out and broadcasted dissent or his dissatisfaction on the issue of abductions. And I simply, from where I sit, and you said I'm a politician, I'm more a leader than a politician, because the politician thinks about the next election and the leader thinks about the next generation. So I belong to that other side. But from where I sit, that was very irresponsible of the Honorable J.B. Muturi, if I may say so, Speaker, without saying more. If I was or I were on his position or in his position, I would have taken my dissent to the appointing authority. And if I was afraid of facing the appointing authority, I would go to cabinet and air it there. And if I'm not satisfied, tender my resignation. I resign because I don't believe in what the government is doing in terms of abductions. But politicians, that's what they do. I hope I have answered you. Then there was a question of expired data. Mr. Speaker, I personally have been a victim of buying data. And the next week or so, I was told my data had expired. And if you go to my Twitter handle, I did express my concerns to Safaricom. And I said we should stop now using Safaricom. At that point in time, that was my belief. And I explained that you cannot go to a shop, Mr. Speaker, and buy sugar, and then come to my house and tell me how not to use or how to use that sugar. And I think I want to inform the member, since then, I really had a back and forth with Safaricom. Now they give you an option of buying, I'm not speaking for Safaricom, but they have an option of you buying data without expiry or data with expiry. So ujitume, ununue, whatever it is that you feel is good for you. But that is, it was very disappointing for me that day, and I believe for most Kenyans.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Owen?
I mean, I think we need a policy, because if you make expirable data more expensive and data that does not expire cheaper, then what you're doing is you're robbing citizens. So I think we need a policy to stop this daylight theft, because there's something called consumer protection in this country. And I think the Minister of ICT owes this country a duty of care to protect consumers of data, to just have non-expirable data. Thank you.
So
Mr. Speaker, I agree entirely with the member. And if I'm confirmed, I'll fix it. I'll fix it.
Go ahead, Robert Mbui's question.
Yeah, the other part of Honorable Bayer's question was on the Konza City.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, you realize that this was a dream 16 years ago. And things were different 16 years ago. And from where I sit, if I'm confirmed and going, we shall put the issue of Konza City on the table and reevaluate whether the original dream still stands and what it is we need to do with the very huge investments that have been put in Konza. And as a businessman, I have asked myself time and again, why haven't I ever thought of going to Konza and invest there as an astute Kenyan businessman? And in my mind, Mr. Speaker, is that there is nothing attractive from the businessman point of view, because I've seen others come up in Dubai. I have invested there. I've seen others in other places of the world. So really, Mr. Speaker, we need to reevaluate the concept of Konza City. A lot of money has been put in Konza on infrastructure. Phase 1, almost 95% complete. But my question is, what is it we need to do to make Kenyans themselves and foreign investors be attracted to investing in Konza? You know, Nairobi is competing with Konza. So we must have an incentive scheme that sends people and international investors into Konza, like tax holiday, duty-free status, land available at almost zero rate, so that they can put huge investments, is to create the demand and the need of people to invest in Konza. And that would be a game changer. There's something in the world that is happening now called tokenizing. We can raise money from public and from investors and buy tokens for Konza so that it can build itself. But always when it's a government project, people tend to want to go slow on again, bureaucracy, again, the way decisions are made. I have had a little bit of a briefing on Konza, and there are many things that we will put on the table and see whether we still have to do business that way. I'm told Konza City is building hubs. The 1450, or the first 100 hectare, which is the authority responsible with connectivity, will do internet. Konza will do the structure, and hectare will connect, from what I understand, and then probably give an ISP to run. Is it really the right thing to do for Konza, to build these hubs or concentrate on the core mandate of Konza? This is questions I will need to ask until I'm convinced that that is the way to do this business. So there's a lot that will be on the table of the ICT minister in as far as Konza City is concerned. Because 16 years ago, it was a great idea to have Konza as one smart city. But today, you would see that we need to devolve and have smart cities almost in every county. And that's the way the world is going today. Why don't we have the Elon Musks of this world investing in Konza City? Do we risk losing the total amount of money that has been invested in Konza? Then there is land being given. For how long has this land being given has been going on? What is the criteria? Are these people going to invest, or they are people who speculate? These are things that the ministry needs to look into and reorganize Konza the year today and not 16 years ago. That's from an outsider's point of view. Data mining. This is something that I'm not sure who asked, but this is something that
You're not sure? You're not paying attention?
Sure. Second?
You are not sure who asked?
I'm not sure. I didn't get the name. That's why I'm saying.
Robert
but I know it is a member sitting just there. So sorry, I did not get your name. But be that as it may.
Does that tell a story about you? All these members introduce themselves to you.
Mr. Speaker, sometimes you do not hear the pronunciation of the name, so I do not want to take the risk of calling someone in a name that is not their name.
And the name tags are also there.
Unfortunately,
He is Honorable Robert Mbui. Go ahead and answer
I
his
am
question.
physically challenged from seeing far. Honorable Mbui, you will excuse me, but data mining, as I had said earlier, it is something that needs to be checked. It needs to be regulated. What sort of data is going into whose hands? You did give an example of a company that was collecting, I think, data from Kenyans, and they were paying. So government should be able to regulate who is it that is collecting data from Kenyans. And I think that's not a big deal to do. We should be able to quickly.
In fact, should we allow any foreigner to come and mine our data?
In my mind, we should not unless it is done through a government agency. And for what reason, Mr. Speaker, we would want to give data of Kenyans to foreigners? For me, that is a straight no. But you find that Kenyans are very enterprising, Mr. Speaker. When the rumor was that you get 10,000 shillings after you register, sometimes Kenyans don't give a damn of some of those things as long as there is some enterprise happening. So we should be able to engage people and them understand that it is wrong for them to give data to anyone. So I want to tell Kenyans to be careful on who you allow to take information from yourself. But if we have rules and regulations on how this thing is done, it can be controlled. Now, Mr. Speaker, I think it's Honorable Mule. I got...
Yes, Robert?
You haven't finished my questions on pending bills and what Kenyans on social media are saying about this docket.
I didn't get the question on pending bills, what it was.
Yeah, it was about pending bills that the government owes to media houses that have led to some of them collapsing and journalists not being paid so much money. So what will you do when you get into office? And the other one was what Kenyans are saying on social media. They're saying that this docket should have been given to a young, techno-savvy youth in furtherance of Article 10 of the Constitution. So what do you have to say about that?
Let me deal with the first one because it's fairly easy. The issue of pending bills, Mr. Speaker, I had addressed the issue of pending bills to Kenyans, not now media owners, Kenyans themselves who've built roads, who've built hospitals, and their money is held by government. I'm saying we must have a way of controlling pending bills. And if we digitize government procurement, media houses procurement, no one will go and spend money they cannot pay. And I gave an example of a governor who walks into office, like I left office, somebody else walked in, and quickly they want to commit money for roads, for either one reason to build roads or another reason. And Kenyans quickly run and put their money into those programs or projects and to wait for many years not to be paid. There must be a way we can legislate on the issue of committing funds that you do not have. But if I am confirmed.
Well, there is already a legislation. The PFM Act says it's a criminal offense to procure goods or services in a public entity without an attendant budget.
I am guided, Mr. Speaker, but you will see pending bills of some counties. For example, not even media houses. A county has a pending bill list of 7 billion, but their budget for development for 1 year is 1.1 billion. So really out there are many criminals that need to be brought to book. Very many criminals, including government itself. When you procure services of a media house and you do not pay, again, it touches on the same thing, procurement. And you will understand, Mr. Speaker, that there used to be something called e-procurement, which doesn't work. I am sure it doesn't work for a reason, Because if procurement works and if IFMIS works, and the controller of budget is in between, you would never be able to commit money to projects for as long as those systems are working. So again, the laws are made here. Sometimes they are not enforced, like you're talking of the misuse of computer and cyberbullying and all those things. The law is there. It's just the enforcement. Suffice to say, there is now a new app.
Mr. Speaker, I wanted to clarify that some of the pending bills, the Honorable Nominee, it's not necessarily that there was no budget that was there. There was budget and government procured the services, but there was no exchequer when the service was done. There was no money. You know, government, a budget is a document of intent. So they go and collect money. If they don't collect enough money, then they have no money to pay. That is the way it is most of the time. And if you can pay, if you can deal with the pending bill in your ministry in the manner that you understand, the better for the government.
Mr. Speaker, if you allow me to school my friend, Honorable Junet, a little bit on the issue of pending bills, is that the money was not there then. But if you look at it aggregately, the total is that if you have closed your books of the year and you have 7 billion spending bills, and the following year it turns to 9, it means there was no money for that particular project. Otherwise, if it was, you should be able to clear your bills in the successive year. But how you can accumulate 7 billion as your pending bills, even if there was no money exchequer then, it means there was a 6-point-something billion that you spent that you could not, you should not have spent.
Mr. Speaker, let me ask the nominee this question then. The pending bills, for example, for roads, is 700 billion shillings at the national level now. So does that mean that all that procurement was done without a budget?
The simple answer, Mheshimiwa, is as the Speaker says, the PMF Act stipulates how you spend government money.
Speaker.
So, Dawood, what is it? Can he respond to that first?
Yeah, it's regarding the pending bills he's speaking about. I want to ask him, because he was the governor of Kiambu, when he left, what amount of pending bill did he leave behind for his successor?
Mr. Speaker, that is an easier one. It was about 300 million, and these were projects running between my the second last year of the term, and we would have been able to pay those pending bills in the following year. But today, I hear it stands to 6-point-something billion. I would not say why.
Can you respond quickly? We're running out of time. Go to Mule's question.
Mule.
Then Raso, then Sharia.
To protect Kenya's investors, business, and the Gen Z, sometimes government buries its head in the sand and pretends sometimes not to know exactly what is happening. Mr. Speaker, if I'm confirmed and I go to the minister, we should be able to bring these things to light and discuss openly on the problems that face the country. You also asked me why me and not a Gen Z. Mr. Speaker, this country has room for all of us. Gen Zs, millennials, and yourself and I, Mr. Speaker. So that
you didn't appoint yourself, so
no,
you don't have to belabor that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for
go on and answer the question.
Your guidance.
Yes,
I think I have answered Mr. Mule's questions.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker, and I'm sorry to call for a point of order.
Who is that?
Myself.
Yes, Mule.
Maybe I can repeat my questions to the nominee because he seems to have lost track of the question. My first question was, earlier you had alluded that you can have a discussion with Starlink. And Starlink